family and bees. A man comes home from work one evening, and he has something weighing on his mind. The man runs a bee farm, and he's noticed that there are far fewer bees than there were the year previous. His wife, Sally, has dinner ready for him when he walks in the door. So the whole family, the farmer, his wife, and their two children, they sit down to enjoy the meal together. The family are enjoying the meal. However, Sally notices that something's disturbing her husband. He doesn't appear to be the chipper self that he usually is. She notices he's hunched over and not looking at the family, which spurs Sally to ask, "Is everything okay, honey?" Her husband pauses for a second and then delivers the news to his family. "Our farm has far fewer bees than it did last year. It's the strangest thing. I don't know where all the bees have went." He said this in such a fashion that got the whole family thinking, even his 4-year-old Max. Oh yes, the farmer has a son and also a 7-year-old daughter named Grace. They too have put their little minds to work to try to figure out what exactly happened. The 4-year-old Max remembers that he was stung by a bee about 2 weeks ago, as there were a lot of bees around the farm. Max thinks that it was because he got mad at the bees after he got stung that they've all left. Max thinks that he did this. He caused all the bees to go away because he didn't like them. Now you might be thinking that's ridiculous. Little Max isn't reasonable, and nor is he responsible for this. And he isn't, but he's doing his best. Max is living in a mental, emotional world where he often cannot distinguish between his thinking and feeling and the events surrounding him, where he has no real connection to them, where his thoughts and feelings themselves actually change reality. The clouds follow him, the bees, in this case, leave because he's angry at them. Grace has a different theory. She remembers her father telling her that the bees have to do a lot of hard work. "They work all day to make honey for us," her father once told her. "They fly all around collecting pollen." Grace thinks to herself, "I wouldn't want to do all that work and not get an allowance for it." She thinks they must have quit their job, quit their work. They got sick of it. She would, and they just flew away. That must be it. The bees have to work too hard. Little Grace cannot think like a bee. She's unable to understand that others think differently from her, including the bees. She's anthropomorphizing the animals and insects, which is a fancy way of saying she's putting human characteristics onto them, thinking into the head of an insect. She's living in a world where everyone must think in the way that she does, where she's absolutizing her reality. Things can happen and continue forever and ever. Sally, too, has a position, but let's look first at the farmer. The farmer himself has been thinking about it too, and he kind of believes that it might be a disease. He's heard of this happen, that occasionally these bees get a disease called varroa mites, where the parasites feed on the body of the adult or the pupil and the larval bees. So he thinks that this might have happened and therefore caused the bees to disappear. He's looking at this rationally. He knows this has happened before and therefore can draw the conclusion that that's what might be happening now. He's not certain about it, but it seems to make good sense to him. Sally, however, has another theory. Sally thinks that, well, she remembers reading a magazine in which a small group of scientists working on GMO crops said that there's profound effects on GMO crops and other life forms. Some of the tests actually showed that ingesting these GMOs can cause cancer in mice and diseases in other insects. She has been worried for some time now about the long-term effects of eating GMO foods without sufficient testing on them. She reasons that because the crops her husband are now working with are GMO, and that the bees are in direct relationship with those crops, that the fact that those studies show negative effects on animals, maybe these insects too were having problems with the GMOs. That there's a very real possibility that the GMO crops were actually causing the disappearance of these bees. Sully's looking at this data from a vision logic perspective, interconnecting dots in a still logical fashion, but it's a more visionary scope of the logic that she's working with. These are different perspectives on how reality might be. Some of them are more holistic than others, and they're understandable from the perspectives in which they come. None of them, you would argue, are fully right, but all of them are right from the position in which the person is coming from. So therefore, let us be open to all the perspectives of the world, but yet be wise enough to negotiate those truths which are more whole than others, more full. Blessings.